Hello everyone, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have something very special to share with you. I'm delighted to join KWerner and showcase her debut collection with Concord 9th. Kristina reached out to me a few weeks ago and she shared the big news, and I couldn't be happier for her because I'm such a huge fan. In fact, Kristina has been the very first card maker that I discovered many years ago on YouTube when I probably stumbled upon card making. I watched Kristina's videos religiously. I got so much information from her, so much inspiration, and I'm just so excited to see this new collaboration with Kristina and Concord 9th. So today I have 3 card ideas to share with you, all featuring the new products from Kristina and Concord. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The very first product that caught my eye in this new release, by the way, the release is huge. There are so many new goodies. There are stamp sets, there are die sets, there are stencils, coordinating dies, you name it. So there is a little bit of something for everyone. The product that caught my eye, you saw it on the screen just now, is the Berries and Leaves stencil. And this is a brilliant stencil set. It is a layering stencil set. The stencils in this set are large. They work on half of a letter sheet cardstock, 8.5 and 5.5 inches. Here I'm using the grip mat by Waffle Flower and a sheet of Nina Solar White cardstock, and I've attached one of these stencil layers onto the grip mat, and I'm just going to ink blend the background. I'm using Pine ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is probably the darkest green that I have in my stash, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink blend the background for this stencil. So the reason why this stencil set is so fantastic, the reason why it's so brilliant, is because you not only ink blend the images, you can also ink blend the background. And I feel like that is just all the rage right now. We all have a lot of different products in our stash that allow us to create images on our cards. And then we take those images and we put them on either a white or a colored background. But with stencils, we typically just ink blend an image, ink blend a design, but we neglect the background. With this set of stencils, we do not neglect the background. We have a whole separate stencil layer to ink blend the background for our card, and this is what I'm doing now. So this is the layer that I'm starting with. By the way, this is my very first time using products from Concord 9th, and I have to say, I am thrilled to see the quality of these stencils. They are very thick. They're very durable. They have etched lines on them, making it ridiculously easy to align everything. So I highly recommend this product. I had a blast using it, and the way it's designed, it's phenomenal. I had to re-ink my ink pad. So again, this is the Simon Says Stamp Pine ink pad, the positively saturated ink, and I'm using Simon Says Stamp blending brush. I kind of first thought I might use the Spellbinders blending brush because it's larger in size. It has a much bigger diameter, but Simon Says Stamp brushes, in my experience, pick up and transfer a lot more ink at once. And because I wanted this background to be very dark, dramatic, and moody, like all the backgrounds and all the cards that I typically make, so I went with a Simon Says Stamp blending brush, and I had to re-ink my ink pad to make sure I had enough ink on there. So let me remove this stencil layer and you can see the beautiful background. Isn't that gorgeous? And it was so easy to make. So now I just have to ink blend the design itself using whatever ink colors I want, and I'm going to have a stunning background. This stencil set has actually 4 stencils. There is a stencil to ink blend the background. I just used it. The stencil to ink blend the leaves. I'm going to use it now. A stencil layer to ink blend the berries, and then another stencil layer to ink blend everything. You might want to go ahead and use that once you've created your background, and let's say you want to add some splatter or some glitter paste over your background. That's how you could use that stencil layer, or maybe you want to, let's say, dry emboss your background or something like that. So you could use that stencil layer like that, or you could just use it for ink blending. I'm not using it today, so I only use the 3 layers. For the leaves layer, I'm using 2 different shades of green. I have the Simon Says Stamp Perfection ink, the positively saturated. It's this cheerful green. And then I also have Simon Says Stamp Sage ink. Again, I wanted to have a little bit of color variation, so I selected 2 different ink colors. I'm using a smaller blending brush here, obviously, because I need less ink. I'm ink blending a smaller area here when I'm ink blending the leaves, so the smaller blending brush worked fine here. I'm ink blending a full background, so if I want to create an A2 card, I can then cut this panel in the middle, and this will give me 2 A2 card backgrounds, and I think this is just beautiful. You'll see me ink blending this using different colors of ink once I switch to the berries layer. I just wanted to test and see if I could have red berries and then gray berries for my background, because I wasn't sure if red would work or if gray would work. So this gave me room to test out different color options, and I think this is fabulous. I am working with a prototype, so my stencils are not exactly the same. There is one minor change to my stencil. You might notice there's like a little X on the stencil. That little part was changed, but because I'm located in Ukraine and because it takes a very long time for products to get here, I wasn't able to work with the final product. So I am working with a prototype, but the final product is pretty much 99% the same as this one. I have switched to the 3rd stencil layer, and I've also used some yellow tape. This is the Spellbinder's Best Ever Craft Tape, and I added a little line in the center. So I basically use this tape to mask a part of my background. So I'm going to ink blend the left side using red ink. This is Simon Says Stamp Brick. And then I'm going to ink blend the right side of this background with gray ink. I will use Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated Earl because I want to have gray berries on that background. I ended up not using the background with the red berries. It didn't really click for me, but I did use the one with the gray berries, and I loved the way it looked. I also loved the way how easy it was to make. And I think this stencil set is just brilliant. And I cannot wait to see more products from Kristina and Concord 9th. My stencil moved a little bit. It kind of shifted just a tiny bit. And also once I finished my cards, I realized that I missed 1 or 2 spots when I was doing my ink blending, but it still looked fantastic. In the end, I did not mind it one bit. Okay, the next product that I have here is a brilliant stamp set, and this is called Merry Greetings Builder Stamps. If you don't have any Christmas stamps in your stash, sentiments, get this one, because this will give you so many different opportunities to create different sentiments and different messages for your cards. You can really create so many different variations and so many different options. On the back of the packaging, there are examples of how the different sentiments can be combined, and it's just so brilliant and so unique. The sentiment that I created reads Season's Greetings and Merry Wishes. What I did is I first heat embossed all of these using antique gold embossing powder on white cardstock, but I later decided I wanted to do a slightly different sentiment for my card. So I then stamped Season Greetings and Wishes in black ink, in VersaFine Onyx black ink, and I heat set that using clear embossing powder. You don't need to heat set it. I do that because I didn't want to smear that ink. So the VersaFine Onyx Black ink is a pigment ink. It takes a little bit longer to dry. And whenever I use this ink and don't heat set it, I know that I run the risk of smearing it. So I heat set that. But I also heat embossed Mary in antique gold embossing powder. And I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but this is what I did at first. So I first heat embossed Mary in antique gold embossing powder. Because my stamp was already inked using that VersaFine Onyx Black ink, I used that same ink to re-ink my stamp, re-stamp it, and add the gold embossing powder on top. When you add a gold embossing powder or like a silver embossing powder over black stamping, the black stamping is not going to show. It's not going to be visible. So that's why I did not bother switching to a clear ink pad. And that's why I didn't bother cleaning my stamp. If I wanted to heat emboss this in white or clear embossing powder on, let's say, colored cardstock for a tone-on-tone look, I would have needed to clean my stamp and switch to a clear embossing ink pad. Here, I didn't need to do that, so I just made things simpler and easier for myself. There is a coordinating die available for the Mary, for the Christmas, and also I think there are many other coordinating dies in this set. So you can really be very creative with your sentiments and, cut some parts out, leave some parts stamped directly on the background. You can go to town with this stamp set and create all sorts of unique sentiments for your Christmas cards. Plus, there are different fonts in here. You have a combination of beautiful fonts that are very Kristina-like, so you can have very beautiful sentiments for your card. Okay, so here I have the Mary cut out, and I also have a panel of white cardstock. That panel was cut out using a rectangle die from Spellbinders. And what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to use that panel to stamp the rest of my sentiment in VersaFine Onyx Black ink and heat set it using that clear embossing powder so that the ink is not going to smear. I'm going to pop the Mary over the panel. So this is going to have 2 layers of dimension. I'm going to pop the panel itself onto my background and then pop the Mary over it. I also later added a little airmail stripe stamped in that same VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I heat set it again using that same clear embossing powder. I feel like the airmail stripe is also so very Kristina. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I've not used the airmail stripe image in such a long time. And I feel like it makes the perfect image for Christmas cards. It just instantly speaks Christmas to me. So here you can see me heat setting that embossing powder using my heat tool, and our sentiment panel is almost done. The background, the ink blended background, is quite busy, and I knew I needed to add a panel, like a solid panel over it to make sure the sentiment would be visible and clearly legible on my card. Okay, so here I decided I wanted to add that airmail stripe, and I finally added that onto that sentiment panel, and I love the result. I filmed the entire card making process for this card. I also have 2 more cards to share with you, but I did not film the process for both of them. I just filmed little parts for one card and then like a final a card showcase for the last card that I have for you. So here I used that same rectangle die and I shortened my panel. I just didn't have a rectangle die of that particular size in my stash, so I was being a little bit creative, and I trimmed the panel from both ends to make it work for the size that I needed. So it's like a little custom cut panel. Next, I die cut 2 additional Mary pieces from scrap white cardstock, and I used Barely Art glue to glue those layers together. This added stability and sturdiness to my Mary die cut, and I love doing this. I love doing this when I'm working with a delicate die cut or when I know I'll be popping things up and I want to make sure that they are a little bit sturdier on my finished piece. I'm using magnets from my Glassboard Studio mat to hold down the die cut while the glue is drying. I have also created a card base. I already created a card base, and I used a dark green cardstock. I believe this is by Simon Says Stamp. It's Midnight Green. I trimmed my ink blended panel down slightly, just a little bit, so you can see just a little bit of the white card base border around the panel, and I also added a white panel to the inside of my card so that there's room to write a message. I'm foam mounting the sentiment panel on top. I'm using regular thickness foam adhesive squares, And I'm adding Mary on top using the thin foam adhesive squares. So there's a little bit of dimension everywhere, but there's less dimension on the Mary. As I was finishing this card, I remembered the very first videos that I watched by KWerner, and I remembered how she would always add some sort of ribbon or some sort of thread or some sort of twine to her cards. And I thought to myself, you know what? I need to do this for this card as well. Luckily, I have a bunch of ribbons from Vivant. They are sold in the Spellbinder store. Vivant is a luxury ribbon brand from the Netherlands, and their ribbons are just absolutely stunning. They're very high quality. They're premium ribbons. So I have this gold twine or gold cord. I don't know what the proper name of this product is, but I will link that in the video description below. So I just wrapped that around my sentiment panel. I tied it into a bow, and I added a dot of glue to make sure it would dry and secure the bow so it would not come undone. I also used the stars die from the coordinating die set, and I die cut several gold stars from gold glitter cardstock from Simon Says Stamp gold glitter cardstock, and I added those onto my panel, and I love the finished result. One last thing that I did, I used a Jelly Roll pen in white. I believe that is 0.5, and I added white dots onto my gray berries. Love it. Okay, here is the second card that I made. I don't have a video tutorial for this one. I didn't film the process. I was just playing and having fun with the products. So for this card, I used a different die set. This is called Mary Trees Stamps. And I used the coordinating die here as well. So first, I used the coordinating die and I die cut a negative in a white cardstock panel. Next, I stamped Wishing You A and also Christmas and Happy New Year in VersaFine Onyx Black ink above and below my Mary. Then I cut colored cardstock into thin strips using my paper trimmer. These were 1/4-inch strips. So I have dark and light green and then also red and pink. And I just created a cheerful diagonal stripe pattern here. I felt mounted my panel onto a card base. This is not an A2. It is larger just because I wanted to make sure that that Mary was a little bit more proportional on my card. I also added that same gold cord or twine around the panel, and I embellished my card with additional gold stars die cut using the coordinating dies. Love this. It's a very simple card, was easy to make, but I think this one is probably my favorite of all. Next, because while I was experimenting, I ended up with some leftover letters. So here I have the leftover heat embossed and cut out letters that spell Mary. What I wanted to do is I wanted to add some ink blending to the bottom part of the letters, sort of like ombre ink blending. So I ink blended green ink from the bottom of some letters and then red ink from the bottom of the other letters to create a little bit of color variation. So these, again, were heat embossed using antique gold embossing powder on the Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. The letters were also doubled up, so I die cut additional layers from white cardstock, and I just glued the layers together to make them a little bit sturdier. So here I have a panel of white cardstock. I heat embossed 2 additional words because I wanted to have more letters. I kind of wanted to make more cards because this is a simple card design, and I felt like it would be one that's easy to mass produce and easy to replicate. So I ink blended one Mary using Sea Glass ink from Simon, and then another Mary using the Perfection ink from Simon. And here I did that before cutting the letters out. So you can do that either before or after, it doesn't really matter. I just feel like doing it before makes it a little bit easier to ink blend versus ink blending all the letters individually once you have cut them out. And let me just say how much I love this coordinating die. It is brilliant. The letters are thin. I love that. I love that about this stamp set. But the coordinating die is so thick. You're getting this unique look. Again, very Kristina, very like her. And I just love it. You know, I love it. It's beautiful. Okay, I also have a panel of sea glass cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. Well, actually not a panel. This is a card base. And I decided I'm just going to add the letters Mary onto the card base. I'm not going to align them. I'm just going to be playful with my design. I'm going to stamp sending all the Mary. And then I grabbed the word wishes from the other stamp set that I showed you earlier today. And that just created a design for my card. It was very easy, very playful, very unique. I added a bunch of stars stamped in black because that went well with the black stamped sentiment. And that finished my card. It's a very simple design, very easy to mass produce. So if you wanted to make a bunch of Christmas cards, and if you're looking for a simple one to make, this one is really not that hard. You just need to heat emboss the word Mary several times, ink blended using red, green, and teal. And you have yourself a bunch of die cuts to create quick and easy and beautiful Christmas cards. So that's it from me for today. I am thrilled to see these new products. I'm thrilled to see this collaboration with Kristina, KWerner, and Concord 9th. There are other products available in this release. I didn't mention everything. They're also standalone dies. So I encourage you to check all of these out. I have links to all the new goodies in my video description below. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. As always, love you guys, and I will be back again soon.